place. Somebody would have says they would call them in. And says, hey, what's going on with this kid? Do you still got him? I don't have him anymore. He left. Where'd he go? I don't know. I think he called whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. Just get him off your plate and get him out of there.
He's off our back. We go back and we tell everybody we don't have him anymore. The kid showed up dead after he made that phone call and he went back to the Bananas. I think he showed up dead like 2 or 3 days later.
Yeah, I'm sure it
They
was.
got him in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
They set him up.
Yeah.
Set him up like that.
Yeah, they set him up.
I think what happened was, knowing Johnny, the resentment he had towards Vic, he probably had some words with him.
Yeah, that's possible. That makes sense.
And pretty much told
Vic, nah.
I'm not doing it.
He defied an order is what he's doing.
Vic gets insulted right away. More so because he knows Johnny. He says, all right, well, F you back now. Shoot yourself.
Wow.
And now what they do is they go tell John, now here we talk about loyalty, right? They go and grab 2 guys who grew up with Johnny Petrocelli, promise them to get made if they do the work.
Yep.
They go and kill their best friend. They get caught. They get life. Now they're sitting there, right? The kid, Johnny Petrocelli's son, he now wants to emulate the father. So he goes out. He goes on a rampage, this kid. I heard, with a gang, they the Tanglewood boys. I'll get into that later.
Boys, yeah.
I'll get into that another time. He goes and gets a life bid. Now look how this all plays out. Johnny Petrocelli, all the time in jail, goes, does his time, comes home, gets killed. The son goes out, gets life.
Full circle.
His 2 best friends, they go kill John, they get life. Everybody's sitting there.
What does loyalty get for this
Gus
whole
gets
thing?
killed.
You want to talk about loyalty, right?
Gus gets killed, right?
Yeah.
But if you cooperate with the government, you're worse than all of them. You're the baddest.
You're the bad man. You're the bad guy.
Oh.
You're the bad guy.
Oh, my
Well,
God. Oh, my God.
It's interesting that we
You
sit here and have
cooperated?
this conversation,
Oh,
man.
my
That's
God.
crazy. What a piece of you are.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it was a cooperation after somebody betrayed you in the first place. So
Yeah, so now...
you're allowed to betray me. How do you look at that?
See what you just said? Now, these are the type of individuals, right? Well, now there's more people involved. We'll get into as to the reasons why I cooperated, right? Now you're saying to yourself, okay, you're sitting in jail. Do you trust these people?
You lived life with them. How are you going to trust them? Because you know the ins and outs of how they're thinking and what they're saying and what they probably are going to say about you.
Sonny, he's doing time for them. And you there's no trust here. And
No,
you're
I
still
wasn't doing time. I wasn't doing time
for
yet
them.
for them.
No.
Not for them yet.
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I was doing all my own stuff.
Okay.
All the stuff I got arrested for was my own beef. Not yet.
Not yet.
The mob stuff didn't hit
The family
yet.
stuff come in yet. Yeah, that's right.
That's why I never asked for nothing. I never wanted nothing. I was taking care of my own business.
Well,
you went and poked the bear.
You know what happens when you poke the bear, baby.
But that's a whole nother 5 hours of talk. I'm not trying to convince you either way, but the way I look at it, like I'll say this, I'll say it again. That's a prime example of how a mob rat is the worst rat.
The internal guy. The guy that turns on his friends, basically.
He who pisses in the boss's ear is the boss.
Interesting.
Nice.
If Rafi never goes back and tells Vic that John has Gus Faraci,
he's alive.
No one's the wiser.
He's alive.
Yeah, he don't get killed by his best friends.
What was Rafi's incentive to go back to Vic and tell him that?
Well, you said it best, I think.
Score points.
Points.
Yeah.
Wants to be,
elevate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wants to be.
Get a promotion.
Look what I did, Vic.
Yeah.
Look
what I did for you.
Yeah, I'm your rat. That makes it okay.
How does that make it okay? Reality-wise.
When ratting, okay, cooperation is on different levels. You got dry snitches, where they're ratting, but they're dry. You know what a dry snitch is?
No, explain.
They're not actually pointing at somebody, but they're giving information without pointing at somebody.
Sort of
dry
insinuating
snitching.
this is about to take place or this is going to
Yeah,
take
there's
place
somebody
today.
around who's doing this. There's
Yeah. Okay.
They're blatantly making a statement.
Pointing them in a direction.
Oh, this is going on. I don't know where it's coming from, but this is going on, blah, 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 and everything else. So, like, what do you know, they're not pinpointing on someone, but they're alerting whoever that there is something going on. You should look into it. That's a dry snitch. You know, you got people that talk about things they're not supposed to talk about. They're not, let's say, here's an example. You got people that are on YouTube. They'll talk about a story. Okay. Although they're not testifying, although they're not getting the guy arrested, they're still talking about the story, what that person did. That's dry snitching. Then you get the person who actually points somebody out. You know, he did it.
He IDs the guy. Yeah.
Then you get the mob rat. The guy who goes over to the boss or somebody in power that knows.
Yo, I want to tell you something. Frankie over here did this and so did that. And
then you got the undercover. You got the confidential. You got the CI.
Yep.
You got the jailhouse rats. How many times jails I've been in where guys are not getting bothered by the staff or they're getting preferential treatment? Why? Because they're giving information. Wow. SIS, they got all their informants in there.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
You know, makes the guy's time go by easier. The guy gets a better job. He doesn't get his balls busted. They don't shake down his cell.
Yep.
He
They're
never
not throwing
goes
him
to
in
the hole.
Yeah, they're not doing
He
any of
gets
that
all
nonsense.
these little perks that they give you in there. Maybe he gets an extra phone call. Doesn't get harassed.
Because he gets information to.
Because and it's credible information.
So do you know that? Do people know that when that's a situation when you're inside or no?
Let me tell you something. When something happens inside, right? They know. You know why? Because everybody's running to the counselor's office or the case manager's office or somebody, right? And they're saying, hey, Frank's the one who did it. Frank did it. Frank did it, right? And what happens is they'll get all different pieces of information. So they got to figure out who's telling them the truth too.
Yeah.
Because there might be a motive why one guy's telling them Sonny did it. Maybe they don't like Sonny.
Right.
Yeah. I want extra dessert. You know,
or they say, well, you know what? We want to screw over Giantonio because we don't like blah blah blah. Or people say, no, I'm going to be truthful and I'm going to give, you know, I'm a credible whatever. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the staff will get all the information, and then they'll start investigating. And then what they do is they go after all the people that were mentioned, and then when they grab all the people that were mentioned, they start talking. And at the end of the day, they find out everything.
Yep.
Nothing goes uncovered.
It kind of makes sense if you look at the environment. I mean, it's not a big community. It's not, you know, it's pretty much a small community. You can get down to the nitty gritty pretty quick if something goes down.
Why do you think when an incident happens, they shut the jail down? They call you in one by one. SIS. They'll call each guy out into the office.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Compare you against him, his story, your story.
They collect all this information. Now they investigate, and they go, okay. Now they lock up all the suspects. Now they get the suspects. Now they start interviewing them. And then before you know it,
process of elimination.
It comes out.
Process of elimination. You get, sooner or later, you're going to get right down to the truth.
Don't forget now, you got a big thing now. You got cameras.
Yeah, that's right.
Cameras everywhere. Video. The only place they can't keep a camera is the bathroom or the shower. They got cameras.
So they can go to the film and look at everything.
You know, and the loudest one in the room is the biggest snitch. The one who's always like, I'm a tough guy, I'm this, I'm that, blah, 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 and everything else. He's the one telling. He's the one telling.
In the room's the squealer.
You know, you got guys in there too. They're tough with their hands.
Yeah, I would imagine.
They're tough and everything else. And they'll tell you right to your face. I'm telling. What are you going to do about it?
Yep.
Guy's 6'6", 300 pounds.
What are you going to do?
He doesn't give a
me. I'm going to run
about nothing.
As far as I can.
And he goes, I'm telling, what are you going to do about it? When they use the word cooperation, they use the word rat, whatever it is, right? It is so many different levels of cooperation, so many different levels of, you know, here's an example. You got a lot of mob guys right now, right? They took pleas.
Yeah.
They took a guilty plea. And they allocuted. You know what allocuted is,
No.
right?
Tell us.
Okay, so when you plead guilty, you're pleading guilty to something. And when you plead guilty to something, it's called an allocution. And what they do is the allocution is the language they use in the plea agreement. So let's say you're charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud. You go in, you plead guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, right? But now there's a synopsis of language of how you committed that wire fraud.
Okay.
Now, if you don't allocute to anybody, meaning that you didn't tell anybody, you just say, I, Sonny Facenda, took these steps to commit wire fraud on this date, this time, blah, 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 and everything else, right? And you're done.
Yeah.
Now, let's say the government says, okay, Sonny, you're going to plead guilty, but you have to plead guilty to this language. In that language, you point to people. Now, you didn't testify against them. You didn't cooperate. But you told the federal judge in the court who else was
These
involved.
people have something involved in this. That's what you're admitting to, right?
Okay, here's an example. Let's say you're a made member of the Bonanno family. You're not supposed to admit to that. You're not supposed to admit you're a made guy. You're not supposed to admit that there is a mafia that even exists. If you do admit to it, does that make you a rat?
It's a great question. Technically, in whose eyes? My eyes or theirs?
Well, this is all. Listen, the word rat and all this stuff we talk about, it's a subculture term. So we're going with the subculture. We're going with the mafia.
And I'm
You're
a rat.
you're part of the mafia.
And
you're
I'm
not
a
supposed to
family
admit-
made guy, and I'm
Big
gonna
guy, you're not supposed to admit to
and I'm
anyone.
gonna allocute these people.
Let's start with the first allocution.
Okay.
Let's say they want you to sign a plea agreement admitting that there is a Bonanno family. The Bonanno family does exist.
Which I'm not supposed to do.
Not supposed to do. And that you're a made man in that organization, what you're not supposed to do.
Right.
Now, you signed
And that this organization even exists. I'm not supposed to do that either.
No. Now, if you did it, what does that make you?
Technically?
Yeah.
A rat.
Well, there you go.
If I do that, I'm going against everything I was supposed to uphold by.
Let me take it a step further.
Go ahead.
What if the allocution says, Sonny, you have to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud? In the language, it states, we're going to ask you these questions. Is there a Bonanno, are you part of the Bonanno crime family? You say yes.
Yes.
Are you a made man in that organization? You say
The answer, yes.
yes. Did you conspire with others to commit this crime?
Yes.
Did you conspire with Michael and Frank to commit this crime?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you didn't testify.
Nope.
Right? You did not agree to cooperate with the government. You didn't get on the stand. Nothing, right? But now, I could use your plea. The government could use your plea and bring it to, if Michael has a trial or if I have a trial, they could use your allocutions.
And
Now,
any
Michael
time
goes
they
like this.
want,
Michael says, well, there is no Bonanno crime family. That's his defense.
No.
Oh, no?
Well, Frank said there was.
Oh, no? There's no, oh,
Really?
okay.
Okay.
Well, you know what, Your Honor, we have here a made guy, Sonny Facenda, already admitted, right? But now Sonny's not taking the stand because that's not part of his plea agreement.
Right.
Because Sonny didn't go to the cooperation of getting a 5K1 letter.
So he doesn't have to take the stand, but yet they could use what he said against everybody else.
anybody that was in there.
because-
Right. And let me ask you this. They can use that at any time that they want to, or they're using it to build a case, or when are they going to use this? So I've already said, yeah, it exists. Now they're trying to catch you into something, and they go, well, we have the proof. Sonny said so.
I don't know as to when, how many times they could use it, but
Yeah, I'm wondering how long that they can use it.
But at the end of the
Forever?
day, that's what's called in the subculture term a bad plea.